Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 130, The Whistle Stops. The episode begins with Ash and the gang continuing on their journey and arriving at a bridge, which, unbeknownst to them, had Team Rocket hiding beneath it as they planned to set a trap for Ash and the gang to fall into a cage. As they're spying on them and see them coming along, they immediately start celebrating prematurely, thinking that their plan was obviously going to work. However, this dancing causes the bridge to collapse and sends Team Rocket falling into the river, where they eventually float away downstream. By the time Ash and the gang reach the middle of the bridge, they see that it now has a huge gap in the middle, rendering it unable to cross. Brock checks his map to look for another way to cross, but finds that the nearest bridge was 10 miles away, and then they would have to turn back in order to get to it. So they instead try and think of another way to somehow cross this bridge, but obviously can't think of anything. In a Deus Ex Machina moment, though, they notice 6 Pokemon carrying a girl in the sky, and Ash uses his Pokedex on the Pokemon, and it tells him that it was Ladybug, who generally gather in groups during cold weather to keep warm. As soon as Brock sees the girl, he immediately becomes interested in her, obviously, and proceeds to imitate the Pokedex as he describes the girl, saying, "This natural beauty's short boyish hairstyle provides the ideal complement to her warm feminine features. This girl is obviously Brock's type." Ash immediately puts away his Pokedex in shame, not wanting to have to listen to Brock embarrass himself anymore. Then, the girl instructs her Ladybug to descend down to the ground, across the bridge. With the help of a whistle, the Ladybug listens to her instantly, and she lands down. And right as she does, she is ambushed by Brock, of course, who tries his usual flirting, but Misty stops him, thankfully. After seeing how the woman could use her Ladybug to cross the bridge, Ash and the gang ask the woman to take them across the bridge, and she accepts, introducing herself as Ariel, and loading Ash on the Ladybug first, as she could only cross them one by one, due to the Ladybug having a certain weight limit. Eventually, they all manage to cross to the other side, though. But Ariel doesn't just stop them at the end of the bridge, no. She decides to take them to her place of employment to show them more of what the Ladybug can do, as the Ladybug heavily helped her with her job, which was working in an apple orchard, where the Ladybug pollinated the apples. Ariel quickly runs into her boss, but immediately ignores him, as she uses her whistle to command her Ladybug to pollinate. As Ash watches the Ladybug do their work, he initially tries to pretend that he was smart enough to know what they were doing, but he eventually admits he didn't know what pollination was, leading Brock to have to give him a crash course. Damn, you really didn't know what pollination was? After he learns, though, Ash becomes interested in pollination, and decides to send out his Heracross to have him help out the Ladybug pollinate. However, the Heracross disobeys him, instead just going to a nearby tree and sucking the sap out of it instead. Ash becomes embarrassed that Ariel was able to control 6 different Pokemon, and he couldn't even control one to do the same job, and asks how she was able to do so, to which Ariel reveals the whistle that she used, stating that it had been passed down through her family for generations, and that the whistle's different notes meant different commands, so the Ladybug had eventually figured out which one was which. Meanwhile, Team Rocket had returned and were spying on Ariel and Ash and the gang, and saw her pull out her whistle, and immediately realized that it being able to control the Ladybug would make it a great present for Giovanni, so he could control the Ladybug himself, so they decided to steal it. They quickly do so by disguising themselves as antique show hosts and examining the whistle, and claiming that it was a 5-star rarity item, so they had to run away with it to examine it further. Ash and the gang accuse Team Rocket of stealing the whistle, to which they reveal that they in fact were, and take off their disguises, doing their motto, revealing their plan to give the Ladybug to Giovanni. Team Rocket then hop in their Meowth balloon to escape, and Jessie tries to order the Ladybug to attack using the whistle to distract Ash and the gang. However, the Ladybug don't listen to her, and she immediately questions why, with Ariel revealing that since Jessie wasn't the one who had trained them, they still wouldn't listen. So it wasn't entirely dependent on the whistle. Jessie then sent out her Lickitung and had it use Supersonic, which caused Ash and the gang to become confused, and had an effect on the Ladybug, which caused them to be unable to listen to any of Ariel's commands, including when she commanded them to use a tackle attack on Team Rocket. This was also made more difficult by the fact that Ariel didn't have her whistle, so she couldn't even force them to use the tackle attack either. Fortunately, Ash's Pikachu was unaffected somehow by Lickitung's Supersonic, and this interested Team Rocket in capturing Pikachu. However, Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, sending Team Rocket blasting off. Unfortunately, this Thunderbolt scares the Ladybug away as they fly away, much to Ariel's dismay. With the Ladybug now lost, Ash and the gang help Ariel try and find them, but to no avail, until Brock gets an idea, wanting to impress Ariel, to send out his Zubat to have it use Supersonic and search for the Ladybug in the skies. However, all the Supersonic attracts is not the Ladybug, but some Golbat, and Brock should have expected this, as the Ladybug didn't like Lickitung's Supersonic, which Misty points out, much to Brock's embarrassment. Thankfully, the Golbat eventually fly away, and Brock is able to recall his Zubat. Just then, Ariel gets another idea, as she suggests that her Ladybug might have flew off to some flowers, since they like the smell of flowers. So, Ash decides to send out his Heracross, who was good at smelling, and asks him to smell out something that smelled like flowers, or a flower orchard, or something. Heracross leads Ash and the gang for quite a while, leading Ash and the gang to actually believe that Heracross had picked up the scent of flowers. However, Heracross instead just leads them to another tree, wanting to suck the sap out of it, much to Ash's dismay. Speaking of flowers, though, Team Rocket had found a field with flowers all on their own, as Jessie admired their smell. It was the only thing keeping her happy, as her, James, and Meowth tried their best to repair their destroyed balloon. She was also pissed about the Ladybug getting away, and threw the whistle away in anger, dismissing it as useless now that the Ladybug were gone, and stating how she couldn't use it anyways. Meowth simply says that she was blowing into it wrong, not taking into account the fact that Jessie didn't train the Ladybug, and tries to blow in it himself in an attempt to call the ladybug. However, it seems as though he was the one blowing into it wrong, as he couldn't even make a single sound, much to Team Rocket's laughter. Jessie eventually decided to just shrug Meowth off and lets out Arbok, instructing it to go look for food. But just then, Meowth manages to successfully blow one note into the whistle, and it sends Arbok into a dancing frenzy. Just then, James spots the ladybug in some nearby bushes and comes to the conclusion that Meowth may have actually successfully called them over after all. Jessie and James want to capture the ladybug as they usually would, but Meowth gets an idea to use the whistle to his advantage some more, as he blows the whistle and instructs Arbok, who is now under the whistle's control, to dig underground. Jessie assumed this wouldn't work because Arbok only listened to her, but the power of the whistle was too strong, and Arbok successfully manages to dig underground and suddenly appear in front of them as it pops up, distracting them so that Meowth could throw a large-ass net over them. The ladybug were now captured. Meowth attempts to tie the net to a tree with some rope to prevent the ladybug's escape. However, the ladybug managed to quickly snap the rope and fly off, leaving Meowth to try and grab on to the net so he can pull them back down. However, the ladybug fly up too fast, and he's not able to pull them down, so this leads Team Rocket to jump up and try and pull Meowth and the ladybug back down, but Team Rocket are all forced to let go, as the ladybug defend themselves by releasing an orange powder, which is a stun spore, which paralyzes Team Rocket as they fall to the ground. They quickly try and grab on once more, but then the paralysis takes full effect, rendering them now useless as the ladybug drag them along as they fly away. Meanwhile, as Ash and the gang and Ariel continued to look for the ladybug, Ariel began to get worried that even if she found them, they wouldn't listen to her since she didn't have her whistle anymore. However, Ash and Brock jump in and reassure her that they would, since she trained them anyways, stating that that probably meant that she didn't even need the whistle this whole time, as the ladybug probably bonded with her. This causes Ariel to remember all the time that she spent with her ladybug and all the things they've done together, and she admits that Ash and Brock were probably right. Suddenly, Ariel, along with Pikachu, due to its strong nose, detect the smell that Ariel explains the ladybug gave off whenever they were in danger, so she comes to the conclusion that the ladybug were in trouble, and Ash instructs Pikachu to lead them to the source of the smell, in hopes to find them. Pikachu follows the smell across some trees, and eventually leads Ash and the gang to an area with orange footprints and an orange fog, which was likely the ladybug's stun spore trail that they had left behind, as they continue to drag Team Rocket. Sure enough, after following this trail, Ash and the gang get led straight to Team Rocket, who were being dragged around by the ladybug. Wanting a chance to battle Ash and the gang, Meowth uses the whistle to command Arbok to wrap itself around a tree and grab hold of the rope attached to the ladybug, which stops them from dragging Team Rocket around any further. So, James is able to deploy a large net, as Ash and the gang order them to release the ladybug. Obviously, their orders were dismissed, as the net traps them. With Ash and the gang captured, Jessie orders them to give them Pikachu, which they were still interested in after the supersonic incident. When they refuse, she sends out her Lickitung, and James sends out his Victory Bell, which eats him, and immediately, they have the Lickitung and Victory Bell not attack another Pokemon, no, they have them physically attack Ash and the gang while they were inside the net, using Stomp and Tackle. A desperate Ariel tries her best to command the ladybug even without her whistle, instructing them to use Tackle, and they do! They immediately fly away from the tree that Arbok was keeping them tied to, dragging Arbok with them, and sending him crashing into Lickitung and Victory Bell, as they use Tackle on all three of them, sending them flying even further. The ladybug then try and tackle Team Rocket themselves, distracting Team Rocket so that Ash could send out his Bulbasaur and have him use Razor Leaf to free them from the net. Just then, though, Victory Bell manages to get back up, and James instructs the Victory Bell to use Razor Leaf on the ladybug, but Ariel instructs the ladybug to go upwards, so the Razor Leaf misses them, and instead cuts the rope, freeing them from it. Because despite sending Arbok flying and no longer being tied to the tree, they were still attached to the rope. James then tries yet another Razor Leaf, but the ladybug fly downwards this time, dodging that attack as well. Jessie then instructs her Lickitung to use Supersonic, but she should have remembered that Pikachu was unaffected by this, so Pikachu is able to use a Thunderbolt, which severely weakens Team Rocket, to the point where Ariel is able to instruct her Ladybug to use Tackle, and the attack is enough to send Team Rocket blasting off. Ariel runs up to her Ladybug and congratulates them on their immense skills, as they return to the apple orchard and begin pollinating yet again, with Ash and the gang watching. The episode then ends with Ash and the gang saying goodbye to Ariel and her Ladybug, as Ariel thanks them for all their help, especially helping her realize that she in fact didn't need the whistle after all, as she now was able to command the ladybug to do their pollination job without the use of it. Yay!